Brock. Okay, I'm done.
The Pokemon anime was something I watched diligently every morning before grade school. We always had to miss the last few minutes of the episodes because we had to make it to school on time, but it's something I certainly cherished. Of course, we vicariously joined Ash, Misty, and Brock on their grand adventure, but even when we weren't watching, we were still talking about it. Many questions plagued us as kids, especially given that this was probably the first anime we ever watched. Questions like, why is Team Rocket so awful at their jobs? Is Misty really changing the course of her life over a bike? And of course, why doesn't Brock ever open his eyes? This last question was surely the king of questions. Tons of different ideas raced through our heads as kids, and it turns out we weren't the only ones. Brock was a character we were definitely puzzled by. He seemed to be one of the most intelligent characters in the show, which made us think he was in his 20s. He was a certified creep when it came to the ladies, and he is solely responsible for leading me to believe that rice balls were delicious, jelly-filled donuts. And I believed that for a very long time. 4 kids ruined me, I swear. But Brock's most notable quality was his eyes, which appeared to be almost always shut. Why doesn't he open his eyes, you ask? That's the million-dollar question. If you've been around on the internet, you've probably heard many people debate this topic before. There's a ton of different ways to look at it, and the speculation is surely fun. When I was a kid, I legitimately thought Brock was blind upon first seeing him. Every character so far had actual eyes except for the gym leader, so it made me think he had other heightened senses or something. He was the daredevil of the Pokemon world. It didn't help that he was meditating in complete darkness when Ash first encountered him. Now of course, you also have to understand that I was a wee little boy who spent his time playing video games 24/7, and didn't pay much attention to the world around me. The concept of Brock's ethnicity wasn't even a thought in my mind yet. If lions for eyes were meant to represent something other than closed eyes, it was surely way over my head. But we'll talk about that in a bit. It wasn't too long until I started questioning our quote-unquote blind friend though. His perception of the world was simply too spot on, and he was like a creepy hawk who could sense any female from a mile away. The details he would share certainly would require vision as well, so I began to doubt my theory. However, it wasn't too long until we finally saw a glimpse of Brock's eyes, and we were left with some interesting takeaways. On one occasion, his pupils are absolutely tiny. On another, they're extremely large. Both of these are strange for several reasons, seeing as your eyes should adjust accordingly to the light when they are opened. But the more and more I thought about it, perhaps Brock was a tad darker than it seemed. This lighthearted fellow was keeping a secret from the world, and his eyes had the answers. What if Brock kept his eyes closed because they were dead giveaways that there was something strange about him? As if he could use Hyper Beam from his eyes just like Snorlax could. What, did you think I was going to say something crazy like Brock is on drugs? Of course not. Oh my god. This explains everything. Why is Brock's pupil small when he opens his eyes, despite the fact that having your eyes closed all the time would make your pupils large? Heroin. Why would his pupils be abnormally large and almost appear to be dilated when they should be shrinking in sunlight? Heroin withdrawal. As defined on Wikipedia, mydriasis is dilation of the eye's pupil, which can non-physiologically occur by disease, trauma, or drugs. This is when your pupil becomes abnormally large. Heroin, on the other hand, causes meiosis. Meiosis is the constriction of the pupil. However, mydriasis can occur when you start to rebound or go through withdrawal. When he's under the influence, his pupils are small, but when he starts to get antsy for his next dose, his pupils grow large. I suppose if your eyes were closed though, one wouldn't be able to tell. Your behavior would certainly be off though, and you would lose your self-control. Brock, our trustworthy Pokemon companion, is actually a closet heroin user. The real reason he becomes interested in medicine later on in the series is because of his addiction with substances. It's the next step for him. Perhaps he's even a dealer. Okay. Let's shelve the ideas that Brock is Daredevil blind, he is a Hyper Beam concealing Medusa, and that he's a drug lord addicted to his own product. Let's actually take a look at the bare bones of this whole ordeal. Crazy theories aside. Earlier I mentioned that as a young kid, I didn't understand that what I was looking at was actually someone stylistically drawn to represent a different ethnicity. In a world full of huge anime eyes, it made sense that a child would just see him as having his eyes closed, especially when he was standing next to other characters who were expressing their emotions by closing their own eyes. What's interesting is that while the younger generation was confused, the anime creators became worried. According to an interview with Masamitsu Hidaka, who was the director for the Pokemon anime at the time, Brock was a character they became worried about when Pokemon became global. They preemptively feared that his character would be viewed as discriminating and stereotypical by an American audience. So in order to deal with the situation, they cut him from the show. They decided to bring him back once they realized no one actually cared. People simply loved Brock for being Brock. If this wasn't the case, Brock may have truly ended up as Professor Ivy's soulmate, as the interviewer commented in conclusion. So while Brock may not be blind, have laser eyes, or be confirmed to be addicted to substances, my headcanon is that he's still higher than a kite. His eyes remain closed due to a design choice that augments his character. Obviously, he can open his eyes when prompted, but the lines for eyes approach makes him a much more serious character when needed, yet at the same time also complements the ridiculousness of certain aspects of his personality. I mean, if Brock had normal eyes, I honestly don't know if his classic line would have had the same effect.
Hey, I know, I'll use my trusty frying pan as a drying pan.
Eyes give away tons of emotion, especially in drawing characters. You can tell if someone is passionate, lazy, or evil simply by looking at their eyes. With Brock lacking details to his eyes, he's sort of a wild card, and that's what I love about him. Brock doesn't open his eyes because his character is defined by not doing so. He can be the quirky, creepy dude that no one can read, simply because he has nothing to actually read about his face. Some may say it's an Asian generalization or stereotype, but I'd argue that this design choice actually strengthens his character. His eyes appear when he needs to show extreme expression, or when he's taking a smack to the head. But other than that, they simply reside back into the caricature that is Brock. 2 lines on a face, and nothing more. Which conceal his drug-lusty eyes. But now that I dumped that on all of you, I'd of course love to hear your thoughts. Design choices aside, do you have any personal theories about why Brock doesn't open his eyes at all? Truthfully, his eyes being a subject of controversy doesn't mean that speculation is ruled out. His family shares similar eyes as well, and he obviously widens them in certain situations. So let me know your own theories in the comments below. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this ocularity analysis of a childhood favorite. Perhaps some of these other videos will tickle your fancy. You can also check out my live streams on my second channel. Thanks for watching, guys and gals, and until my next video, cheers.